What's going on, everybody? We are back with another episode of The Jungle. And with me today, I have Monica Moaning, and Monica is Building Freedom Ohio's onboarding chairperson for the Akron Canton chapter. And she's also the Reentry Liaison over at South Street Ministries. I have been fortunate enough to link up with Monica. I'm starting to do, I know I had like Shantae and Lamar on here. I've been in contact with Shantae. I'm hoping here in the very near future to be able to do more work with Building Freedom Ohio and the reentry portions of Stark and Summit County with Shantae, Monica, and Lamar. So guys, real quick before we get started, I want to thank each and every one of you for checking us out across the social media on the YouTube page. The YouTube page seems to be doing pretty well these days. That's where I'm getting the most traction. That's where my analytics are actually showing progress. So I want to encourage each and every one of you, if you're watching this and if you're tuning in on YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a follow, leave some comments, leave some reviews. All that does is push us up in the feed, and it gives us an opportunity to be seen by more people, to help more people. And that's the whole goal of everything. If you haven't checked this out yet, we do have a Facebook page. It is the Jungle Cast on Facebook.com. Obviously, we are on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We're on like all of them, Amazon. So I encourage you guys to keep checking us out. I appreciate all of the likes and follows and subscribes. And I also want to give a quick thank you to all my guests who have come on and put themselves in the hot seat and shared their experiences. So, all right, Monica, let's dive into this. So,
first, you
Monica
said all those things, and I sound real professional, but really, I'm just a community member that's been through some shit.
Hey, you know what though? That's okay because it's you know what? I'm a former drug addict who drives a truck who's just trying to make a difference. So I looked
around some people that needed some shit, and I've been through it. So here we are. Like you said that,
yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Hey, it looks good on paper, and that's
Right.
all that matters. So
right.
So, all right, real quick, let's dive into. So, you've been to prison. You obviously had, I believe, it was an issue with substance abuse. I don't know what took you to prison, to be honest with you. You and I were kind of talking beforehand, and I told you, I said, I don't know a whole lot about you. We have quite a few mutual friends, so go ahead and just introduce yourself, kind of let everybody know where you come from, what maybe growing up was like real quick, and get into the gritty stuff.
So again, my name's Monica. I'm a community member in Akron, Ohio that's been through some shit. I want to help my community. I feel like we're all kind of united by trauma bonds, unfortunately. No matter what you've been through, we've all got similar emotions. We don't have the same story, but we've all felt the same type of shit. So I just want to be able to pass that on to my community. Growing up, I grew up in Southern Ohio in Marietta. So from the outside, my life looked pretty privileged, pretty blessed. Inside my home, it was not so much that. There was a lot of trauma and abuse and secretive, just, what stays in this house or what happens in this house stays in this house. Like, we had a no snitching policy in my community as well. Like, I grew up, we don't talk about what goes on here. So as soon as I could get away from that, my mom had moved to Akron right before the summer right before my freshman year. And I moved from Marietta, Ohio to Cole Avenue in Beardsley, right in the heart of the South Side in Akron. And shortly after that, my mom was in an accident with my stepfather who was killed. And she went into a dark place. It was either learn to support myself and my sister and my mom or, go into the system. And at 15, that wasn't an option, not where I lived. There were too many people that were getting money and taking care of themselves. So I discovered that I had a real knack for sales at a young age. And being that my parents were both alcoholics, my mom was an alcoholic drug addict, I did not have so much of a substance use issue. I had more of a mental health issue. I was using all of the tools that I had created, detachment and all of these things that I had gathered from being a child to cut myself off from the world, literally.
So you were in the system at 15 years old then?
No, I started selling narcotics to stay out of the system at 15.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not ignoring you. I'm trying to get this going on. I think I've almost got it on Facebook, but I promise I'm not ignoring
oh
you.
no,
I'm
you're
listening.
good. You're good. I'm kind of rambling anyway. I don't normally talk about my childhood, but yeah, so there was just a lot of trauma, and I started selling drugs, and I was good at it. And then I had a kid at 17, and it was survival. It wasn't like I woke up one morning and said, "Oh, I'm just going to sell drugs today." It was literally me and my sister are going to end up in the system, or I'm going to learn how to take care of us and pay this light bill because we can't have no gas and no lights.
Yeah. How old is your sister then?
She's 2 years younger than me. She was 13 at the time.
Okay.
But she's the baby. Like
So
my little sister, I've always been the older, protective, older sibling.
was dad around? Dad not in the picture or
Dad was in the picture full time. I actually was raised in Marietta by my dad and my stepmother. My mom was not in the picture. And then when I turned 13, she came back into the picture and we moved here.
okay.
After that, my dad would have been involved a whole lot more had I not been making decisions that I knew he wouldn't have been supportive of. So being that he was 2 hours away and not here, it made it real easy to keep shit from him and only let him know what I wanted him to know. To be honest, his opinion throughout my life is probably one of the only ones that ever made a whole lot of difference to me. So I tried to keep him real secluded from what was really going on in my life at that time.
So then he's currently not in your life then either.
Actually, I just spoke to him on Father's Day for the first time since.
Oh, I saw your post on Facebook that you guys had a real long, nice conversation. So
Yeah.
what's that like being able to bridge that gap and have your dad back momentarily or currently
Forever.
to have a conversation
Forever.
with?
Forever. Yeah. My pride's not ever going to let that happen. So fast forward, I sold drugs for 20 years, raised my kids, and went to prison at 36. My dad was very disappointed. He had a lot going on in our community growing up, so people knew us. When I got in trouble, my picture was all over the news. Things were not good. I was very embarrassed, and I knew he was disappointed. So I never reached out and tried to bridge that gap. I just kept putting it off. My pride was in the way. So I'd been saying, like, I'm going to call him. And then on Father's Day, I just texted him, like, "Hey, Dad, it's me. Happy Father's Day." And he called me. And when he called me, he's like, "Mon." And nobody calls me Mon but my dad. So he's like, "Mon?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, it's me." And he just started crying. And he's like, "I miss you. Like, you're my daughter. I love you. Like, I know we've been through some shit, but I love you." Like, and it felt good for real. Like, it hurt to know that I hurt him by, like, staying distant and not keeping in touch and, like, excluding him. But like I told him, this is the first time in my life where I really feel like I'm doing something he can be proud of. So
Yeah.
I wanted to call and share with him, like, what I'm doing. And I think that kind of hurt his feelings because as a dad, like, as a parent, we're proud of our kids for everything. Like, yeah, you make some dumbass choices, but you're my kid.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. Like, and I'd never, like, felt that or heard that because I'd never been doing shit that he could have been proud of, I didn't think. But to hear him say that, like, "I've always been proud of you," like that, it changed a lot.
No, I'll tell you. So obviously, as well, when you're out there and when you're making bad choices, I had more pride about myself and I was more confident. I wasn't, we're not going to call it confidence. I was a cocky asshole.
I was an arrogant person.
I was arrogant as fuck. I knew the right way. I was a hustler. I was a gangster. And I'm like, now that I'm 41 years old, I look back and I'm like, you were a fucking dumbass.
You were a stupid mother. Yes, you were a fucking moron. I look at all the time and I just look at my kids like, bro, please don't make something, like, don't do, like.
Well, and that's also the beauty of coming where we come from, because I can look at my kids now and my kids have not made the best choices, but they're not making the choices that I made back in the day. But I can sit back and kind of and have conversations with them. I was fortunate enough to take Chris to dinner last night and go to a comedy show down at the Hall of Fame. And the older he's getting, the easier it is for him and I to have conversations. And I'll tell you though, My little girl, I love my son to death. My son has like blown me away as far as the strides and accomplishments that he's making. Going to
That's
college,
the one
getting
that's
a full
got the
ride playable.
basketball stuff going on, right?
Yeah, full
Yeah.
ride down at Shawnee State.
Yep.
I just ran into one of his coaches at the gym this morning, and I was just glowing from ear to ear talking about him. My daughter gave me a run for my money a little bit when she was a little younger. There was some bullshit, but you're absolutely right. And I've preached this several times to people. You know, that's my little girl. I don't care what she does. And coming from your dad's standpoint, being a father of a little girl, she could make all the bullshit, stupid hood rat choices in the world. But the day, and I'll walk by her side through all of it, but the day she shields me and walks away from me is the day that I'll be completely broken, because it's in your DNA as a man and as a father to want to be present for your daughter. And if you're not, and it's your choice, you're just I'm just gonna say you're a piece of shit. Like that. I don't understand how somebody could throw that bond away. But I've preached several times to in fact, I'm talking to somebody now. You have to try and mend the relationships. If your family relationships are mendable, in order for you to be successful, and I'm not talking in sobriety, I'm talking in life, because you're going to constantly have that stigma on your shoulders that you are a convicted felon, that society tells you you're not shit. And the best way to overcome that on the front end, in my perspective, is to try and mend all your relationships with your family, with your kids, your mom, your dad, your siblings. That's where I've gotten the most. That's where I've gotten the most of my confidence nowadays and my pride. So, now that my rant's over, because it's your podcast.
Fine. It's fine.
So, okay. So you're selling narcotics, and I'm assuming at some point you get locked up, and that's what you get locked up for. What was your initial charge? What were your initial charges, and what kind of time did you get?
At 36 years old, I caught felony 2s and 3s, drug trafficking, aggravated possessions, weapons under disability, from one felony that I had gotten at 18 for tampering with evidence because I threw some shit out the window. So I ended up with the weapons under disability, which, for anyone who doesn't know, even though I was not using my gun in the commission of a crime, it is still a violent crime. So that is, you cannot go get jobs with the weapons under disability. But, yeah, and I went at the very beginning of COVID, and I spent 10 months in a cell in Stark County Jail by myself. And I found whatever Monica, I found God, whatever crack in the wall I could talk to, I found, and I talked myself through some shit. I went to
I'll tell you, man, those jail cell days and nights, man, it will, and especially 9 times out of 10. I mean, if you were trafficking narcotics, you were probably drying out, you were probably sobering up. That's probably, going to prison wasn't bad for me. I don't know about you. Going to prison wasn't bad for me because did I lose you? Oh, you're back. You're cutting in. Oh, no, you're good. No, I don't know if it was the same for you, but like the initial getting locked up, having the detox in a cell by yourself and being faced with all the bullshit, the impending sentence that you know you're going to get, that was the hardest time of my whole bid.
It's crazy because I didn't believe that was going to happen to me. I didn't believe I was going to be in that much trouble. I just knew I had money put up. I'm about to pay a bond. I'm about to get a lawyer, and I'm about to go and drag this shit out for a couple of years. Like, never in a million years did I think it was going to go the way that it went, and I was not getting out until 3 years later. Like, never.
Oh, I knew I wasn't getting out. They had me suspected of like 80 some burglaries in Portage County.
Shit. No,
I was like, the second they caught me, I was like, let's go to jail, guys.
Yeah, no, I just thought it's drugs. I'll go in here, I'll play drug addict, I'll get rehab. They're going to let me go home. I got 2 kids. Like, I'm a white woman. Let's be real. Like, that's the privilege that I lived with. And then that was kind of an eye-opening experience. The judge was like, absolutely not. You're not going home. But, prison.
So how much? Oh, go ahead.
Prison, I got 2.5 years total. I ended up, some shit happened with the attorney and some money, and you know how the system works. And I ended up only getting 2.5 years. Prison was probably the second most life-changing experience for the positive in my life. The first
Real
being,
quick,
yeah,
what was your parent institution? Where were you sentenced
I
to?
spent 11 months at Marysville and 11 months at Northeast.
Okay.
Prison was a positive experience for me. I know that sounds wild, but I needed prison. Like I said, I started working on myself in the county because I didn't have anybody to talk to but the cracks in the wall. And when I got to Marysville, I was still doing bullshit though. I was still hustling. I was still sending money home. I was still taking care of people. Like, it was just like being in the hood. I just couldn't leave.
Yeah.
And I sat down one day and I was like, man, what the fuck are you doing? Like, bro, you're going to be the same statistic that your daughter has seen repeatedly. Like, is that what you want? You want to go home and come back to prison because you ain't learning shit. Like, you still in here hustling, stat, whatever you doing. Like, it's too much. Randomly, they sent me to Northeast. I wasn't supposed to go there. They were not even accepting girls because of COVID. Somehow I ended up on like the second ride out of Marysville. When I got there, it was a completely different situation. There was only like 125 girls on the compound, and it was a reintegration center. The staff were not disrespectful. They wanted to see us succeed. Like, it was still COVID, so it wasn't anything going on, but even the energy was different. There were no drugs there. There was DBT therapy and mental health counseling, and like, they wanted us to come home and actually possibly not come back. So I got real involved in my.
That's very
Mhm.
that's rare to hear that out of a correctional facility, especially these days post COVID. I know a lot of funding was cut during COVID. I mean, I was out during COVID, but just stories that I've heard. Dude, they were cutting funding for programs and for reentry programs, all that shit. When I got down to Lake Erie, so it's nice to hear that there are at least facilities out there that are trying to reintegrate. My reintegration was NeoCap, which was fucking stupid and it sucked. But
Which is like,
I got to go to prison, then
I
NeoCap.
was gonna say, which is like therapy, like
It's
rehab,
in
right?
lieu of.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go there instead of getting sentenced to prison, and I looked like I looked wild coming in off the fucking jail bus in all my state blues, walking through NeoCap. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're doing this now." I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm just here because the judge sent me."
Yeah, so that's kind of what it's like coming home from prison to Summit County. We have to go to the Orienta House, which for the girls,
Oh yeah,
they send you to a not locked facility because coming home on TC, one of the conditions is that you're in a non-lockdown facility. So, like, there's girls coming in and out that are still using. There's girls in the facilities.
yeah. I got you. No,
Yep.
you're good.
But coming home to the Orienta House was
I'll edit it.
similar.
You're
It's
good.
like inpatient halfway house. Like, it's all
Are you good?
IOP counseling and stuff that I like
Oh,
was
okay.
culture shock to me. Like, I just came from prison. I'm not here to be on that, but there's girls that leave and come back, and like, it was wild. So I can relate to that. If they just sent me there before prison, I'd have probably never went to prison because that was worse than prison, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, NeoCamp was terrible. We had to sit in a downstairs room for I think it was 8 to 10 hours a day. You couldn't talk to anybody. You had to have a book to read. You could look at magazines, and then you would
Yep.
have like two,
Yep.
maybe three classes that lasted
Yep.
maybe an hour every day. And between classes, you had to go sit at a table. So coming from prison, where I was able to get up, go to work, go work out a couple times a day, kick it with the homies, like then going to that where it's basically like I mean, it was a shock. I'm surprised I actually made it through, but I will tell you, I think prison lightweight like reformed me to the point where I had made up my mind at that point, and I'm like, I'm just finishing out my time. I'm fucking getting through it. I'm going to do whatever they need me to do because I need to get home to my kids. And at that point, I had dried out. It had been a couple years, so I had made the decision. I'm coming home and I'm
No,
not
really.
doing
Like,
bullshit again.
jail.
So okay, you
Jail.
come home
The
from
scariest thing
prison.
about jail to me
Do
was
you
that
have
it
any
was
good
easy.
juicy jail stories or no?
Like, had I started going to
Before I
jail in
create
my
this?
20s, I would have had several numbers. And I can openly and honestly say, like, for people that have been in the streets, we
Yeah.
adapt in any situation. Like, one thing I'm going to do is make sure I'm okay. So if that means I have to chameleon whatever and fit in, like, I'm gonna be all right. So prison wasn't hard for me,
Yeah.
and that was terrifying coming home. Like, wait a minute. Being here in my city in a place that doesn't have locked doors is more of a struggle mentally and spiritually than being in prison. Like, that really hit me. So the whole halfway house struggle thing and like the temptation and all of the emotional chaos, because like you said, you go from having a routine, from being around people that you choose to be around who are like-minded, who are doing the same things, who are in the same programs, like, and then you get put in a situation where half of these girls in my situation didn't even know if they wanted to live tomorrow. Like, it was wild, but I felt like I needed that because I knew coming home from prison that I wasn't going back, and I had my shit together. I had a plan. I was gonna make it. And then I went there, and that was real life. That's what real life is like in my city right now. Drugs, homelessness, like that's
Yeah.
so I'm glad to have had that experience. But no juicy prison stories. Prison was like
I don't really have a lot. I mean, and I'm not going to get into them because I've talked about them on the other episodes. But I have to agree with you. I think it was, and I never looked at it as being scary. I didn't have a hard time when I got locked up. I found a couple like big white boys that weren't linked up with gangs, and all we did was work out, mind our own business,
right.
and
There was
kick it
no like
together. And that was I got approached by a couple gangs, but it was never anything like force like you're gonna like you know what I mean. So prison wasn't prison wasn't bad for me, but there was also a lot of shit that went on around me. Like I saw some shit, and I guess you're right. It
listen,
is scary
depending
thinking
on
that I
what the
was able to go
reason is
down and
for the
do two
crime,
years,
I will do the
and if I
time,
had
and
to
I
go
know
back and
that.
do it again,
Like, there
I
are
could
things that
probably
would
go back
happen
and
in
do
my
it
life
standing
to
on
one of
my
my
head. Like
children
it
or
was
whatever, and absolutely, prison is not, unfortunately, was not the end of the world. It was a
yeah.
necessary experience, but the fear of being able to do it so easily is what made me realize, like, you can't go back to that life because
No, you're absolutely right. I I've never thought of it like that. That it is actually scary that I was able to go down there and not. Yeah, it sucks being away from your kids, and yeah, you got a bunch
there
of
you
like
go.
emotional baggage you got to fucking offload, and like spiritually you need to get better, and it's hard to do that while you're in there. It's hard and it's easy because it's all you have to focus on, but then there's a lot of bullshit as well. So yeah, I never really thought that it was. I never really looked at it as being scary from the standpoint of it was too
Hmm.
easy to do that time. Um, I also knew that I wasn't going back. Like you were gonna have to catch me up in some straight shit to get me locked back up again. Um, so yeah, it's there was something I was gonna touch on real quick. I can't remember what it was. Um, no, you brought up yeah, you brought up hustling too while you were in there, and I very clearly remember like I had my hustles, and I also very
Hmm.
clearly remember the point where I sat down. Because like you said, people from the streets they adapt, and everybody in there, I don't care who
Peppers,
you are, they all
onions,
have a
yeah,
hustle.
oh
Whether it's
yeah.
whether it's a laundry porter, whether it is somebody stealing meat out of the meat and sugar out of the chow hall, um, peppers, onions, uh, everybody's got a
And
hustle in
that's
there.
how I
But people
looked
don't
at it. And then
understand you
when I
also have
sat
to
down, I was
survive.
like,
So I
bro,
never
you
really
really
looked at any of
don't
that
need
as
any of this extra
I'm still
stuff to
caught up in my
survive.
own
Like,
ways.
you get three
It's a
meals a day,
survival
you have a roof.
mentality. So
Like,
um,
this is all shit that you still want. Like, you're still feeding needs that you don't have to have. Like, I had a
yeah,
pair of shoes. Like, I didn't need three pairs of shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, just all the stuff. Because I was still my ego. And I really had to sit down. Like, you got three pairs of state pants. You got three
well,
state shirts, bitch. You got somebody to do your laundry twice a week.
yeah,
Like, you got extra shit, but you don't need all this. So it really
yeah.
humbled me to recognize that even in prison, like, I'm still trying to have the best or be the best, or like, just sit the fuck down, lady, just sit down, man. And I never knew that I had an ego like that. I always thought I just,
Yeah.
I always thought I had self-love.
That
Hell
fucking
no.
ego, man.
Hell
That
no.
fucking ego will get
My
you every
ego was
time.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Cocky does not equate to confidence. Yeah. Um, no, I was the same way. I went for years thinking I was the the biggest dude on the block, the fucking
Right.
baddest dude on the, and I'm not shit. I can sit back at 41 years old right now
Yeah.
and look myself in the mirror and be like, you're not shit, but you are a good dad. And I could go through like my whole gratitude list and like whatever, but I used to think I was king shit, like just hustling small shit and doing shit and even in prison. I'm like, you didn't do anything in prison. Like, shut up and sit down.
I
Sit in the
did.
back row and shut up. Sit with the peanut guy. Like, you don't need to be up front. So you come home,
So that's
and you
crazy
have
that you
kids
asked.
at
My
this
oldest
point.
daughter turned
So
18 the
what's the
month before I
custody
got
situation
arrested.
with your kids, and what
So
was
she
that
was
like
still at
coming
my
home
house. I had
and
money put
working
up. She
that
was
back out?
maintaining, taking care of business, whatever. And my youngest ended up, excuse me, with her dad's parents. I took care of all of that from jail before I ever got to prison. I wrote a letter and signed over guardianship, put a date on it with my max out date, like what it could have been, all that. So that was pretty, I mean, thank God I was fortunate enough to have people that were able to step up and that my oldest was definitely grown. Prison made my relationship with my youngest daughter better, honestly. My oldest daughter is still angry. She's got resentments from early childhood that she just won't let go. So our relationship is kind of up and down. But my youngest daughter and I were forced to learn to have a verbal communication. Like I said, I was raised in a household of why are you crying? Don't come downstairs unless you're broken or bleeding. And we don't talk about what goes on in our house or in anybody else's house that you're at. You just don't tell. So I raised my kids very emotionally unattached. Like I didn't have any understanding that they were crying because they felt some kind of way. Like I was always that mom that was like, man, what are you crying for? Like, that's life. Suck that shit up. So they never really felt like they had a voice. But then when I went to prison, and my daughter and I have a great relationship at that point, even so, I made sure that I talked to her multiple times a day from the county or from prison. Unless I didn't have a number to type into the phone, I was talking to her. But it gave her a voice for the first time. She was able to express things to me and say, "Mom, when you did this, it made me feel like that," or "You doing this makes me feel this way," or "I think you could do it better." And we've maintained that since I've come home, and I'm very, very grateful for that because, like I said, now they have voices. They have voices.
Well, I'll tell you, that is the one thing that I look at, and it's such a beautiful thing once you, like I was talking about restoring relationships and what it'll do for you uh, in society. And I don't understand why prisons don't push that more and why rehab. I mean, I know like rehab facilities do push like mending relationships with your family members and things like that, but I'll tell you, I hang my hat on my relationship with my kids at this point, and it's an ongoing thing where I'm constantly trying to be a better dad, be a better parent, because out of
Man,
everything, I get the most joy out of my
yes,
kids. So to be able to know that I went where I went and I was as low as I went, and my kids are doing the big things that my kids are doing,
absolutely,
I tell everybody, I don't care if I'm that
absolutely,
annoying ass dad up in the
absolutely,
at
absolutely.
Speedway and you're talking about basketball. Motherfucker, I'm turning around. Guess what my kid's doing? He got a full ride playing basketball. I don't know you, but you're gonna hear about it. So um no, that's great though. I know Christopher was nonverbal for a couple years after um and we're not going to get into all that, but he was nonverbal for a couple years, very limited speaking. But Nevaeh, she was a trooper. She pushed through. Her and I have always had a really great relationship since I came home. There were some rocky
And
points
it's
when
really
she lived out
important
here
to
with
me
us, but
now because, like, it's so
yeah,
strange to hear.
it's
Like,
something
I always
beautiful to
thought it
be
was
able
so
to
weird
have a
to hear
relationship
people
with
say,
your
like,
kids
my kid
after
is my best
going
friend.
through what
But
we've went through.
literally, at
So
the end of the day, like, my daughter has been put in adult situations. Like, she's not an adult, but her thought processes, she recognizes some of my old behaviors when they're happening. Like, that's my rider. Like, that's the person that I know for sure has my back. Like, all the rest of it goes down and everybody has their own
yeah,
self-interest or whatever values they have or whatever could cause a separation in whatever type of relationship. Like, that's
yeah,
my guy. She got my best interest at heart. So go to her with things and I ask her opinion on life decisions and stuff that I'm doing that will affect her. And that's something that we never had before. I would have
Yeah.
just made the decision and said I'm the mom and it is what it is. But I just,
Yeah.
oh God, yeah, no, we're not doing
No,
right. She's going to
that's
prison. It's
awesome.
over
Yeah,
with.
Nevaeh, that's how Nevaeh is. Nevaeh, you come at her dad and she's gonna burn your house down and murder your whole family. She's fucking crazy. Yeah. All right, so your relationship is on point, and
Absolutely.
I mean you're building. I mean the little bit that I know you, I know you're working to fix or restore even more so the relationship with your older daughter. And that's you. And I tell people this all the time, and I want to say it one more time. Anybody that's coming home that's trying to get their life in order, you have to understand some of this shit takes time. I've got a really good friend. He did one of my episodes. He was on the Rikers Island episode. Um, Worked with the guy for years. He ended up having a couple kids, and he's like fighting to be in his kids' lives. And there's trauma there. And I always have to remind him because we check in every couple weeks, see how each other's doing, and it's a constant. I always encourage him, and I want to encourage anybody else listening to this. It's trying to rebuild those relationships. You don't fucking give up. You already gave up on your kids once when you went away. You don't get to. That's part of being a parent. Even if that kid tells you to fuck off until they are 40 years old, you constantly leave that door open. You don't get mad.
Right.
It was your bullshit that got you where you're at. It's your bullshit that you're the reason they're traumatized. You are the reason they don't want to talk to you. It's not their fault. And all you can do is continue to push and try and be in their lives. And I want to encourage anybody that's like trying to bridge that gap. You stay the course. Like
And the crazy
eventually
part
it'll
is,
pay
even if
off.
you
I've
did some
seen it
real
time
awful
and
shit to
time
your
and time
kids,
again.
your
As
kids are
long as you
probably
didn't do any
still going to
like
want
real
some type of
awful shit to
relationship
your
or
kids,
explanations.
those
Like,
kids will come back
the
around
only
at some
person that
point.
destroys a relationship between a parent and a child is a parent. And it's a conscious decision.
Those
It's a conscious decision. One thing I want to touch on, you mentioned trauma that we cause. So, anybody that has like a relationship with their child
100%,
that's coming home or has been in the streets,
a
I
hundred
challenge them
percent.
to ask their child about what they believe was traumatic in their life. My youngest daughter and I have had several lengthy conversations about what she perceived as her trauma in her life.
Yeah.
Man, there's shit that she remembered that I'm like, bro, when the fuck did that happen? And then she'll tell me what happened up to it, and every single one of them that didn't seem relevant or big to me were all based on my emotions and my reaction and how
Oh,
my energy made her
yeah.
feel. It was a situation that saw me scared or angry or that that's what caused her trauma. So I challenge us to ask our kids and really understand, like,
Well,
just
and
because
again,
we don't see it as
you're
trauma doesn't mean that as a child or another
yeah.
human being it's not traumatic. But
No,
yep.
and your truth isn't their truth. What you perceived how the situation played out, that's been a big game
Yep.
changer for me is looking at things from other people's perspectives. Because for the longest time, and as human beings, you are always the center of your own world. You're the center of your own universe. And so the way that you perceive things, 9 times out of 10 is the only way most people look at things. Nobody takes a step back to say, well, how did they feel about that situation? What were their thoughts in that? How did my actions affect them, and what was the outcome of that on their end? Um, Anybody that has kids that that the kids were
Yes.
traumatized from what they did, you have to step back. I hate saying it like this, that your truth isn't their truth, but like
And
they
even
had
if you
their own
don't understand it,
perspective
you've
of
got to
what
give them the
happened.
space to
So
at least vocalize it.
you
I've
have
told
to
people forever
listen to
there's
them and
three truths in
understand and
every
work through it from
situation:
their
mine, yours, and
perspective,
God's.
not
Because
yours.
same exact thing is going to happen or be said to us, but your perception is completely
Yeah,
different. So it's
yeah. Christopher, my son, has been a he'll talk to certain people. He'll talk to my wife, Mary. He'll talk to the women, most women in his life. But when him and I have had conversations throughout the years, I don't get a whole lot from him. It's very hard to like tug things out of him. And I've always left that door open. And it's funny that we brought this up because I'll get out on the road, and the road is one of the loneliest. Me being a truck driver, it's one of the loneliest places, but it's been one of the best healing opportunities because I get to sit with my bullshit and work through my bullshit. I have called that kid so many times in tears, panicked because of text messages, and I'm like, he's pissed at me. Like, what's going on? I don't understand. I'm calling my mom. I'm like, is Chris upset with me? Like, what's? I'm calling my wife. Like, have you talked to Chris? Are him and I good? And I always have these conversations with him, and I don't always have them, but when they happen, there's been multiple conversations where
Say that.
I'm like, dude, you know the door's wide open. If you want to tell me I'm a
Please
piece of
say
shit
it. Let me
or
hear
I
it.
was a
Make
piece of
yourself
shit and you're
feel
hurt from
better.
things that I did
Get
in the
it off
past,
your
I'm like,
chest. Yes.
just say it. Like, I'm not going to yell. I'm not mad. Like, I, and he literally tells, he literally every time he'll laugh at me and he'll be like, you're a
Yep.
good dad. Like, I don't understand why you feel this way. And it's my own bullshit. It's me feeling guilty for all the shit that went on in the past, and thinking he's carrying that burden, and he's not. And neither is Nevaeh. But it's super funny because, yeah, I always lead the conversation with, I have not yelled
I'm
at you
probably
in
gonna be
like
happy.
10,
Just tell me that
15
I
years,
fucked.
dude. Like, the door's
Okay,
open. You
okay,
can
I
tell me that I'm an asshole. I don't
yes.
care. I'm not going to be mad. I just want to hear you
You
say it.
don't have to understand. I felt that
Right. Show some
for
fucking
sure.
emotions, dude. So, um, okay, so let's get into we're pushing about 40 minutes right now, and I know you got somewhere to be at 12:30. I want to get into reentry. So, and what you're currently working on, because like I said, I've building Freedom Ohio has caught my eye with Shantae and everything that you guys were doing. I seeing Lamar give his motivational speeches, watching all of your
Nope,
social media posts.
nope, nope,
For
nope,
anybody that
nope.
doesn't know, reentry,
I can't
building Freedom Ohio
correct
is
you.
basically it's a reentry program out of it's statewide.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna let Monica explain. I'm gonna let
So,
Monica
and that's what I
explain.
was going to say. In reality, a lot
I
of them
get
are
Stark
tied
County
together.
reentry,
Reentry is
Summit County
something that
reentry,
BFO
Building
does
Freedom,
focus on because
South
we
Street
understand the
Ministries. To
need
me,
for
they're
our
all just the
people coming
reentry
home and the
program.
struggles.
So
But Building Freedom Ohio is a grassroots organization that is started by felons and those directly impacted, whether it's faith, community, family, friends, and we're a changing political stuff. So we're trying to amend and abolish collateral sanctions first. Those are the restrictions that are placed on us once we have given our time, completed our supervision, whether it's parole, probation, whatever. Once you've done all that, there's still 1,100 restrictions placed on us. They're called collateral sanctions. Of those 1,100, those are just the state ones. Of those 1,100, 850 of those apply to employment. So we're trying to,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, because I have a trafficking charge. I literally can't scrub toilets in a hospital, in a doctor's office, anywhere where there may be narcotics, where
wow,
there's a
I didn't know
prescription
that.
pad. I don't have any theft charges, but because I was sold drugs, they assume that I don't know. But like, there's crazy.
No, I'll be honest. I was trying to. I've been looking at finding something else aside from truck driving, and I went. They opened a Myers driving school down the road. The only charges I have are burglary, but they are F2 burglaries. And I called Myers. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to be honest. I live right down the street. I could work as much as you guys want me to work. Like, and they were like, do you
It's a
have felonies? And I
CQE,
said, yes. And they were
which
like, you can't
basically
work
just
with kids,
allows you
dude.
to
Now,
be
apparently,
bonded and
Ohio does
insured. So
something where
what the
like you can get it
CQE
pardoned
does,
or like get like
it
permission.
is a guarantee from the state that if,
Yes.
say you have a burglary charge, okay, so that they give you this CQE, they allow you to be hired. If you go there and you commit a burglary on the property or that's going to come back on the employer in any way, that is the same crime that they allowed you to overcome to get the position. It covers the employer from being responsible. The state will be responsible for any charges and any financial. So it's basically just another insurance for them. But it is available for some crimes.
Uh,
But so what? Building Freedom Ohio is doing right now, like I said, we're amending and trying to abolish some of the collateral sanctions. We're also pushing the FILM Act, which is the Felony Impacted Liberation Movement. We are trying to get the GROW Act passed, which Ohio is one. There are 12 other states that currently have some type of clean slate initiative. The Felony Impacted Liberation
So
Movement.
explain real quick what the
It's a
GROW
bunch of
Act
BFO
and the
chapters trying to organize
felony.
faith,
What did you
family,
call it?
friends,
Felony liberation.
anybody that's been directly or indirectly impacted, or businesses. I've been talking to people that own businesses. The GROW Act, once it passes, is going to expunge and seal 1.78 million criminal records in the state of Ohio. That's going to immediately allow 1.78 million people to return to work with no type of collateral sanctions. So all those 1,100 restrictions that I just said are out the window for them. They don't have records anymore. It starts, felony 3s are at the discretion of the judge. Felony 4s and 5s, as long as they're nonviolent or a crime against any protected class, or like a sex crime, murder, that type of shit, you know. So no violent, no dangerous, but drug possession, theft, like all the stuff that is considered petty will just be sealed and expunged, and your record will be cleared. And you'll be allowed to work.
No, that's awesome. I will give you my hat is off to people like you and Shantae and Lamar, and because when we did our little interview about the march down at the State House 2 weeks ago, most of the people that are working on this, it's not going to affect their record. A lot of them there are, but I mean, a lot of the people that are like really digging their heels in and trying to make this thing work
on those steps are going to be impacted by it.
None of us that were on that interview 2 weeks ago, it's not going to help any one of us, but you guys are still, yeah. And that's what I love about it. And Lamar said it best when he was on here. You know, he said it's time that everybody unites. He said, and unfortunately, as felons, we are socially. A lot of us are not social creatures. We've been told we're not worth anything. We've listened to it. We've adapted to. We are not worth being anything in society. We're not. We can't have anything in society. So that bond, once you come outside of prison and you have something in common with those people, it kind of separates.
Programs and all these classes
because you're not allowed to hang out with other felons once you're out if you're still on parole or probation, and B, yeah. So I loved when Lamar said, you know, it's time everybody comes together. It's time everybody gets involved and starts putting their foot down and saying, this isn't fair that we made a mistake and now we have to serve a lifelong sentence. It's there's for my crimes, for some crimes, I 100% agree. You touch a fucking kid, you should carry that your entire life because you're sick, you're going to fucking do it again. And there's, shit like that. I understand. A lot of these other ones, trafficking in marijuana, you got guys that are still locked up doing life sentences for fucking trafficking in marijuana, and it's fucking legal throughout almost like half the United States.
As a felon on supervision, you are not allowed to own a dog that is 12 weeks or older who has not been spayed or neutered, that you did not own prior to your commission of whatever crime you were convicted of. Yep.
Really? Yeah, that's stupid as fuck. And for any of you assholes in probation or whatever watching, I had my dog long after. Don't come for me. I'm not on supervision. I'll fight you.
This is what I do, so I'm very aware of these 11
that dog means more to me than half my family members.
So I'm like, hey, can I get a dog? And she's like, I don't care. And I'm like, shit, you could really come here and put me back in prison if you were in a bad mood. She's like, yeah, I know. We don't do that. We don't use that one too much. And then proceeded to tell me of a situation where they needed to go in someone's house because they thought he had shit going on and they knew that there was a dog there that wasn't supposed to be there. So they did use that. Like, it's so wild to me that literally somebody could be in a bad mood and just be like, oh yeah, you have a new dog, fuck it, you're going back to jail today. Like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. I can understand it if you have the one that I saw was on pit bulls. I think it was, and it was a specific law in Ohio about owning a pit bull while you're on.
I was gonna say my bullies are the biggest babies I've ever seen in my life,
or an aggressive breed. Let's just call it an aggressive breed because I got to be honest, my pit bull is the biggest anxiety-ridden baby. So we could call it just aggressive breeds, but I can understand it from a law enforcement and a probation officer standpoint where they don't want to be showing up for a home visitor. They don't want to get called to handle some shit.
At the end of
now
the
you
day,
gotta shoot a fucking dog.
We're criminals.
I get it.
We're gonna do what the fuck we're gonna do anyway. If I want to have a dog,
but also.
So I maybe for a dog fighting situation, I don't know. I just don't feel like it should be a collateral sanction across the state for everybody with a felony conviction. If you have a dog fighting crime or a crime against animals, okay, cool. You probably shouldn't be allowed to have a dog. Okay, I get it. But I had my dogs that I was making money on selling them and breeding them and showing them before I ever went to prison. That would be wild for you to say I can't come home and make money legally doing something that I know how to do that I've already done. Selling bullies is good fucking money. And my little one, she's got purple ribbons. So it's just wild to me that they still have that much control over somebody's life, over what kind of dog you have or how old it is. That's wild. But you're right. Some people do need restrictions. I am absolutely not going to say we're going to get rid of all collateral sanctions because there are some bad people in the fucking world. And there are some people that need restrictions forever, period. And I agree with that.
It's and again, the point I'm at in my life, I understand why some of these laws are in place. I can at least sit back and justify and understand why they don't want certain people owning aggressive breeds. I can understand why they don't want certain people owning firearms. I can understand why they don't want certain people to have certain jobs. But also, at what point do we say, and I've said this before, I know tons of fucking criminals who have never been caught that get to do all that shit on a daily basis. The world is ridden with fucking assholes. So what? Because I was a shitty criminal and I got caught, now you get to tell me I don't get to do these fucking things?
It's wild.
You got teachers working in fucking schools, fucking teenage kids. But I'm the asshole. It's fucking wild, man. It's fucking wild. And that's why I love what you guys are doing, Monica. That's why I have been, like I said, I've been talking to Shantae.
You're helping right now.
I know Lamar's super busy. I kind of keep up with him on Facebook, but I always see your stuff. I want to help in whatever aspect that I can. I know, but there does come a point in time where you have to say, we can't hand out life sentences to people who are 13 years. 13 years I have been home without a seatbelt ticket. You haven't caught me jaywalking. You haven't caught me doing a fucking thing. You know why? Because I don't fucking do it anymore. Yeah. 100%. And I'm not going back. I made that decision, and it's just wild. And I know a lot of other people who have been out for years, and they still suffer the consequences of having that felony. So yeah, there's definitely changes that need made, and I love what you guys are doing. Let me ask real quick. So you're the onboarding chair for the Akron Canton chapter of Building Freedom, Ohio. You are also the Reentry Liaison for South Street Ministries. Where, how, what kind of people can actually first off, what kind of people can utilize these services? What services are you providing at both these, or especially at
if they don't offer it there? Oh my God, they've got somebody where they can send you to do that. On Tuesdays at 4:00, Lamar and I actually do a peer-to-peer support reentry meeting. Reentry for us is not just coming home from incarceration. Reentry is rehabilitation, homelessness, incarceration, halfway house, county jail. anything that's taken you out of society where you need to reacclimate yourself and with other people, whether it's resources or just humans, someone to support you. So South Street is like an all inclusive. They've got all the stuff. And the reentry meeting on Tuesday is fire. It's between 50 and 70 people. They feed you at the end. And it's kind of like therapy. Like Lamar gets up there, he talks about what's going on. We talk about BFO. We talk about how we can make our community better. Because at the end of the day, we're all just community members who want to be regular citizens. We just want to be normal people.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And you want to be able to, make choices,
Me
make
too.
changes, you want to have
I was
opportunities.
going to say, we can
There's
do a whole nother 2 hours on that if you want to come back later.
I could sit here and preach all day. The system's just built. Once you get your felony, it's built to keep you down. We're not going to go through this whole fucking rigmarole. But the main thing in all this is everybody wants to rehabilitate people back into society. So if your goal is to rehabilitate people back into society, why the fuck do you put so many sanctions on nonviolent offenders, on people that made a stupid choice, people that I'll be completely honest, and there's people that disagree with me. After 13 years, I should be able to have my fucking felonies completely expunged. I didn't hurt anybody. There was nothing violent. There was nothing aggravated. I paid my time. Why the fuck can't I get my shit expunged? And there's thousands, millions, I don't even know the number of people out there that have non-violent, non-aggravated felonies that just serve the life sentence. And they deserve to be happy. Yep. And that's what they're hindering us from doing, is being able to work and create,
because we're not given the opportunity
lifestyles
for equality
that are productive,
of life to
happy,
even be
successful.
Equal with other people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the GROW Act, that's what it's actually doing. Like those 1.78 million records are all those low-level,
you have roadblocked and
railroaded
us at every crossroad.
So, like people with misdemeanor theft charges literally face the same collateral sanctions and same restrictions as somebody with a felony. Because once you have a theft, you're that guy. Like, so it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
We can't go in asking.
Yeah. Well, it's not even collateral sanctions though as well. And this is I'm gonna have a real quick like coming to Jesus moment with people too. So it's more so once that's on your arrest record, and arrest records are such shit also, because I have literally like 10 pages of shit that I was never convicted of. Now, was I doing sketchy shit? Yes.
And that's
but why in the fuck is my arrest record available to the public? If there's one record that should be available to the public, it should be my conviction record. Mm-hmm. But those aren't available to the fucking, like, yeah, you can go on and search for it and find out I was convicted, but then you're going to get the whole.
No, I might have been a piece of shit. I might have been. That piece of shit is what I'm in recovery from.
Like a straight piece of shit. Like, and I got to be honest, at this point in my life, I'm not a piece of shit. I still. So, yeah, but then you go in a job interview, and I'll tell you, I was an operations manager for like 7 years. I did the hiring and firing at my last job. I would never run a background check because that cost money. These people would come in, I would ask them if they have felonies, and because I've been through the system, I already know I can go in and look up your record just by your name, date of birth, all the information you put on the application. So I'm literally screening everybody as they come in. And even me being a felon, I extended tons of. I have employees that still reach out to me today, and they're like, "Thank you for giving me an hour," because I was always on board with hiring the felons. I'm like, they're gonna work. They have to work. Like, and most of them that I hired turned out to be supervisors or great employees that are still down there. People need to give people another fucking chance. Like, I understand. I'll be honest. The reason I was looking up records was making sure that you weren't like diddling kids or had like murder charges or aggressive charges, things like that.
Quote, man who shot somebody at 20 in a heated situation should suffer for the rest of his life for that. Like, you're not a man. First of all, you don't understand consequences. You have no concept of what really just happened. Like, we're not mature at that point. Like, yes, are there consequences? Abso-fucking-lutely. Like, for sure. But when you come home, we'll just use Lamar. Lamar has murder charges. When you come home and you're doing the shit that he's doing and changing and touching the amount of lives that he touches, like, that's my mentor. If it wasn't for Lamar, I wouldn't be sitting where I'm at. Like, he's taught me so much and seen so much in me that I knew was there. I just didn't know how to find, and given me opportunities and places that I would never seen myself doing. If a man who's doing that for his community can't be fully restored and be allowed to go into the schools and teach how to be men to young men coming up, like, what the fuck are we doing? We're guaranteeing that our kids end up, like, it's so, the whole system. I could go on for hours.
Yeah. There's no, and it always, I'm glad you brought that up because it always throws me for a fucking loop that I've been asked that I have some friends that are teachers and they have asked me to come down and speak at the schools, and they've taken it in front of the principals and things like that, the superintendents, the school boards, and I can't go in. And I get it. Like, what, it's a fucking rule and I have to follow it. So but it's wild because you have people like Lamar, like you, like me, who literally lived the bullshit. Like we lived the bullshit and we fought our way from the fucking gutter. But you would rather have some guy that like wrote a book about, I don't fucking know, like his dog got run over and
especially in the communities where we live, like these kids are not relating to the people that are in the schools. Like, if you want to change some lives,
that had a dog
around the kids that they can relate to, that they're going to be able to understand and have a real conversation with. Yeah, I got a whole. I feel some type of way about what we're doing to our kids and what we're allowing the system to do to our kids.
Yeah.
Even still, causing them to have separation.
No, it's gross. Now that's why you see all these private schools popping up and all these like charter schools, because
we live on the same
people
block.
Don't want to send their kids to public school anymore.
Like,
well, I don't look at it as that. Dude, I live in one of the best school districts in fucking Ohio, and I pulled my kid out and sent him to St. Thomas Aquinas. Not because I had the money to do it. It was, he had better opportunities to go down there. You know, I didn't want to pay that fucking money for him to go there. It's not always that, but I know there's a lot of situations where people don't want their kids brought up. And I've got friends out in Medina right now. They're going to pay fucking, I think it's like $8,000 a year to send both of their kids to a private school.
But I also know how this charter system works.
The only reason is they just don't want them in public school. And I don't fucking blame them, dude. Public school is a fucking mess right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Well, you're in Akron though, and it is an issue. And they don't do that out here. But yeah, I know that Dick Goddard like scholarship or whatever it is, or the guy. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we're pushing up on an hour, pushing up on 12:30. I know you said you got stuff to do, so why don't you, real quick before we're off here, let everybody know, anybody struggling that needs help with finding housing, reentry, maybe finding a job, anybody that wants to attend the weekly support group for reentry.
So the address
why don't you real quick shout out the address, shout out the name of the church, and then let people know where they can find you, where they can reach you.
You can reach me on social media, Monica Moaning, Moening. That's my Facebook, my TikTok, Instagram, Snap are all BFO_Monica. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Monica, I seriously appreciate you coming on. I know it took me a while to get you on here, but thank you so much for coming on and doing this. I know it was kind of a hurdle for you. You were a little nervous, and I know Shantae jumped your ass for it.
That's what I was going to say. So do you want to come back and do another one?
You need people like that in your life.
Like what BFO's got going on.
You have a good story, and what you guys are doing is fucking amazing. Like I said, yeah, okay. So I've reached out to. I need to call Shantae back because I want to start doing like discussion meetings where maybe I have like you, Shantae, and Lamar on, and we can all sit and have a conversation, or even if it's just me and maybe like two of you, so things don't get like chaotic and hectic. No, it's in the works. I have a couple other guys that I've talked to throughout the last couple months that are all on board with it. It's literally just,
Mhm.
I've had like 3 of those scheduled, and at the last minute, somebody's always got something going on, and it's a lot for me to be on the
Okay.
road and pull up topics and pull up like
Okay.
a punch sheet for people to kind of follow and put all that together. So
Okay.
we're working on it. But yeah, that's what I kind of want to take this in that direction and maybe go from there. So no, absolutely, we can have you back on whenever. And again,
We
thank you
appreciate you
so
for
much for
spreading
coming
the
on here.
message.
You have a great story. I love watching you guys and watching what you guys are doing. So appreciate you. Appreciate everything you're doing. Everybody, once
Okay.
again,
Okay.
hey, anything I can do to help.
Okay. So
I literally
well,
told,
I'll definitely
I've
be
told
in
all you
touch because
guys,
there's some things
if you
coming up
have
that
even an
we
idea,
could
shoot it
definitely
to
use a
me.
video
You need
guide
help putting a
for and like
studio together,
some
you need
media.
anything,
So for
I'm
sure I'll
at
be in
your
touch.
disposal. So, um, yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. We are going to check up out of here. Once again, I want to encourage each and every one of you to head over to the Jungle Cast page on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave some comments. Once again, all that does is help
Bye.
push us up in the feed and spread the message to others, which is why we are here. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.